This term we've been learning about Mexico, and throughout the term this is what we've made. We've made an altar with flowers and pictures of loved ones or things that we've lost. And what we've been mostly learning about is Day of the Dead, which is a celebration held from the 31st of October to the 2nd of November. And they dress up a bit like Jessica over here, with colourful skeletons, and they parade with flowers and things like that.
Yeah.
And also, you may think that because of all these colourful things and parades that they hold every year, you may think it's quite a rich area country, but they are actually quite poor in some areas. As you can see, this is a slum that we've made with lots of they're just box houses. They don't really have much to them, and they're very poor. They're made from scrap metal and other materials that you can just scavenge.
Underneath the bright stars, a little girl named Coco visited her mother that passed away a few weeks ago. It was a time of year that Mexicans visited their loved ones that had passed away. It was called Day of the Dead. She would plant a seed of a different colour to represent what time she came here. Sadly, her mother passed away at the age of 36, but for Coco, she was only 6, so she wouldn't really know what was happening. She was really upset. Day of the Dead was also on Halloween, for October 31st. Mexicans believed that you would give the departed souls their favourite food. Mexico represents someone's life in joy, full with colours. This tradition is celebrated across North America, such as California and Texas. Coco realised that she had to let go, that her mother died, but she kept dreaming about her day in, day out. It was really heartbreaking. She even saw her mother at random times. She couldn't resist seeing her mother again.
Daniela's adventure. Under the moon's crescent, spirits from the underworld come out from their caves and homes to visit the living and their loved ones in a small town in Mexico. On this special day, the sun shone bright, colours everywhere, and crowds cheered. But far, far away in a quiet area sits a small girl named Daniela, staring into her mother's grave. The poor girl wept and wept, but suddenly a bright blue flower popped out of the grass. Then she began to feel very sleepy, and then she fell asleep. But then everything went dark, and then she started to have a very bad dream. Someone who looked just like her ran at the picture of her mother, fists flailing. But then she just woke up, just before impact. Was it some kind of curse that made her doze off? Well, she realised she had enough of spending her time here and retreated back to the town. She lived happily ever after.
Daniela. Every year the Mexicans and a little girl called Daniela would make lanterns for the people who had died in the past. There lay Daniela's mother's gravestone with all the other graves on it. There were also pretty flowers surrounding it. There Daniela sat heartbroken. Then this flower changed everything. She tried to pick it up and then this happened. While she picked it up, she fell into the gravestone. She had fainted. All of a sudden she had woken up and she saw these skeletons playing the maracas, trumpet and guitar. Then she fell down and a skeleton was touching her face. Then the unknown skeleton put on this blindfold and she kept on missing the piano. But then Daniela took one of the skeleton's leg off and finally hit the piano. Daniela and the skeleton started to dance. Turns out it was her mum.
One Mexican night, a little girl named Daniela was mourning the loss of her deceased mother. Suddenly, a flower appeared and pulled her down under the tombstone into the ground. She saw 3 skeleton men playing the trombone, violin and guitar. In shock, a skeleton pulled her down to a chair and made her some melon. Daniela was frightened with her life. Then the skeleton gave her lots of food. The skeleton took her to paint some vases, and then the girl realised it was her deceased mother.
Once upon a time, in a town called Bricola, a girl named Masita went to her mother's grave. She knew that she should be happy for her mother, but she was sad because she couldn't see her. While she was sobbing, she noticed a beautiful blue flower. She grabbed it, and then she fell through the ground. When she stood up, she noticed scary skeletons, but soon noticed that they weren't so scary. Masita thought, how are the skeletons alive? But then she saw that one of them was her mother. Her mother began to take Masita around their town in their changing rooms and getting new clothes. Masita was even giving a parade lots of food, but then her mother placed a flower back into Masita's hair and she was transported back to the cemetery, but she knew it wasn't a dream because she still had all the clothes that were there and the beautiful flower was still in her hair.
I'm going to let you in on a little secret. When I was 7, me and my mum would always play out together outside. And when it was time for bed, she'd snuggle me up tight and sing me my favourite song, Safe. Here the winds will keep you safe. Here the winds won't lead you astray. Here I will love you from day to day, because this is the place where you are safe. By the end, I was always tired, ready for a not-so-endless sleep. And I woke up the next day as usual, but Mum, she never did. She was lying on her bed, pale on her face. She turned to her side and pulled a blue flower out of her vase. Take this, Coco. When you look at this, think of me. Don't go, Mother. I love you too much, I whispered to her, but it was hopeless. Her eyes were already closing. Here the winds will keep you safe. Here the winds won't lead you astray. Here I will love you from day to day. The final words were almost inaudible. Here is the place where you are safe. Every day I visited her, crying and wondering why she had left me. I always disliked Day of the Dead. I didn't want to celebrate my mum's death. It sounded absurd, and it was. I would ignore the other ridiculous crowds and kneel before my mother, grieving as if it was the last time I could. As a present, I planted the same flower she had gave me before. I sung her to sleep, and then something incredible happened. It was growing rapidly upwards, and halted by fear, I stared at the extraordinary flower, so it stopped. Then it carried on growing. It didn't want to stop. I even stopped focusing my attention on crying, until eventually it blossomed into the same beautiful flower I had before. Before my mind could process this, everything went black, and I felt like I was falling. But where? I hit a cold floor, my whole body trembling with fear and shock. I slowly opened my stinging eyes, paranoid that someone or something was there. It was all empty and somber. I had to get more energy, so I stayed lying there for at least 20 minutes, so that I could have been able to know what was happening. Soon I walked around, not knowing how to leave this place. And then I saw two colours. The colours were green and orange. They seemed to be getting larger and longer, until it seemed there was an invisible path between the two lights. I put my hand there, just to be safe, anything was there, and I could feel something smooth and strong. So I slowly put one foot onto nothing, and before long I was slowly crawling across, staying between the magical borders. Eventually, I had picked up the courage to walk. It was amazing. I felt safe, so I decided to dance. You could call me insane, but I wouldn't care. Even though I was looming over the endless abyss, it was one of the best moments of my life, but nothing could prepare me for what was about to happen next.
A long time ago, a young girl called Daniela sadly lost her beautiful one. Daniela always visited her grave every day to say a prayer. She fell into her mum's grave one night and she was in shock. Daniela was scared because when she woke up, she got told to follow a skeleton. Daniela started to dance with the skeleton and she put a smile on her face.
Vida's adventure. Many moons ago on a Halloween night, spirits visited their families. There was a young girl called Vida, and she goes to her mother's grave every year on the Day of the Dead. Vida's mother died at the age of 40 years old, and she was a sweet, kind person who loved Vida with all her heart. visiting her mother's grave, Vida saw a flower and picked it to put on her mum's grave, but it pulled her into the ground. Vida landed on a hard floor when she got up, she saw a scary face towering over her that looked like a sugar skull. Vida ran away, but wherever she went, there was a lot of skeletons wearing clothes all over the place. It was like a land of skeletons. All around the skeletons were dancing. That minute she woke up, it was all a dream.
Spirits go and visit their loved ones for 3 days in a small town in Mexico. In the town there is a little girl who lost her sweet, lovely mum. In Mexico there is a special time of year, it is called Day of the Dead, where the family members give respect for 3 days. Each day Mexican people go to their loved ones' gravestones and put something that they love ones on. One day, little Natalia put her mother's blue flower down and it started to grow big. The flower kept growing until the flower pulled Natalia down to her mother to have fun. Natalia and her mum loved to make Mexican cookies all the time. They also loved to play with a pinata to get all the sweets. They also loved to make some more cookies, and their favourite thing to do is to spend time together.
On the early morning of 31st of October, Mexico could wait no longer to celebrate Day of the Dead. However, Coco was mourning for her mother due to losing her from a young age. Coco planted a seed in her mother's honor. Her flowers suddenly bloomed as if magic. What could it be? Suddenly, she was heaved into her mother's grave.